So today I talked to a bunch of residents, and all of them said that they feel gassy, bloated, and have diarrhea from the food. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it goes. One resident said that she doesn't eat for 3 days, and if it's not eggs, she can't eat it. Another resident that I spoke to today indicated that she had never gone out to a bar and not had a drink and not ate something. And in this case, she had to go to the washroom to go to the washroom. Okay, she had to use the washroom, and she was shocked that she had never actually been to a bar, didn't didn't drink anything and didn't eat anything, and went to a bar to use the washroom. She thought that was like, a whole new. I can't remember. If she thought it was a low, but she definitely was like, it was just weird. Um, Also, they indicated, and I have experienced this, and this is part of the non-touch torture. This is part of the techniques that they use on you. Um, they strategically target us, is a quote, but they strategically target us in at like attacks that I'm certain they plan in advance because of technology and because of the food. If you eat the food, they can make your meal or make meals. And I noticed this at the Bond with food that makes you angry. So if it was one of those food days or one of those breakfast days, everybody would be angry. The whole shelter. There'd be fights. There'd be people getting kicked out. There'd be like all these like multiple event days. So they strategically target you. Sometimes they withhold food. One resident said, and they look at you judgmental. They gawk at you. Sometimes is another quote. And especially when you're taking food, they said that, it's like handing them the food that they prepared themselves and they hold on to it like it's theirs and not the city paid for that. Our taxes paid for that. And therefore it is, anybody. So if you are hungry, you can eat if there's enough and, whatever else. But just a sense of like degrading feeling, they all said, like this judgmental, icky, like they gawk at you, they make you like feel like you're trash. And many of them went into detail, but it's an overarching like technique that they use on us to make us feel like shoot. These are concentration camps for the homeless. There are also dens of inequity and they traffic children. And this being said, people are grateful that there's a food program. People are grateful that there is like a shelter, that we're not cold. I think one resident said, at least, at least it's a shower. People really liked the space, but overarchingly, there lacks community in this building, and I don't think that was said as much as it should have. But there is like no programming. There's no like we're encouraged not to knock on each other's doors and socialize. It's very isolationist. And in this particular situation, the hotel owns the property. So they have a hotel staff. And these staff probably have 8 stories to 9 stories underneath trafficking people. And they come into your room and steal from you. That's just that's just it. They intentionally rob us. And they always have. They And I guess people kept mentioning attitude. Like, these were, a couple were women of color and who were classifying other women of color who are staff tend to be worse at it. Now, I don't know this because all staff are just mean to me for the most part. Management is coming around slowly, but like today, I asked to get something printed, a survey about the food. Like, I think I have 8 on me and I gave 10 out. Well, trying to get this document printed is like impossible, okay? Impossible. I've asked another shelter. I've asked my drop-in. I've asked my bail supervisor. I have asked the library, who was like, we can't do anything. You have to pay. I'm like, I'm homeless. And like, isn't the library like allowed to make concessions on this type of stuff? Well, they weren't having it. Now, my conclusion is that Yaddle Who and Terrace Him and Terrace Who, Terrace Him and Terrace Who are dictating, no, you're not allowed to. But I digress. So back to this shelter thing, and I think what people didn't realize when I was handing out the survey is that it doesn't go to staff. It stays with me. This stays in my portfolio of like what I've done or what I've accomplished, and will probably use one day to gain employment. Like if I could show a PDF of all the surveys that I was able to collect, and the signatures that I signed in the bonds case. Um, um, it just shows the level of like degradation they give you because you're homeless or you do drugs or you like socially don't look appropriate. One person commented and said they almost don't want to touch you like you're dirty. Like they, ugh. And it's very like they open the door and they just gawk at you, like look you up and down and like, and that was the general consensus of that conversation. Uh, Another person that I said talked to, and this didn't come up as much as I thought it would, but like given the circumstances, who would want to? Because a lot of the residents that I spoke to were probably scared that there'd be recompressions or recomprise or recompense from doing this and saying what they want to say. I am a resident. I do not, and I repeat, do not like giving this to staff, and I won't. It'll stay with me and it'll be used for that when we have our meeting, which got canceled because once we had the meeting, it gave me a deadline. And because I was going to bring this all up and have all the residents who were there to then be like, yeah, like I've heard someone say that. No, he's right. And kind of echo my opinion. Also let them talk, obviously, but echo like it'll be my turn and I will like go through all of the issues that I like, and I will drop the complaints on their lap, and I will drop the surveys, and I will say, you need to change something. These are just I will tally it up and say 60% of the people surveyed, probably most of them, all say the food is bad. And most, except for the vegetarian, like the vegetarian people, they obviously get less gassy and bloated. But the people who eat the meat, and I guess it's a little bit of a consequence, but really get bloated and gassy. And no food should be causing that. Also, another woman gained a whole bunch of weight, much like my friend Sharkle, who lived here, and she gained a ton of weight. And she was like, why am I getting so big? I'm just eating the food here. I've never gotten so big in my life. And another woman said, I put on 50 pounds since I've been here. Not only do I think the food is made to oppress women in that fashion. Could you imagine being a lady and having to go to the washroom every 2 hours, or like having to fart so loudly that like people around you are like, what the hell just came out of your behind? Like, and then on top of it, having that like having to be a lady on top of them trying to oppress you, like the social pressure of being a lady, and then add the fact that they intentionally give you gas and give you chemicals that give you cancer. And I'm sure if you were to test the food here, you would find traces of dead human, dead animals, and you find traces of cancer causing agents, and you'd find weight gaining hormones, and you'd find a bunch of things that basically are bad for women's bodies and probably messes up their menstrual cycle. Now, I believe the food is intentionally made for women and therefore intentionally trying to kill them faster. And that, my friend, is spectacularly wrong. No, not even spectacularly inappropriate. Now, also what's inappropriate is that everybody who hasn't access to shelter doesn't know what it's like accessing a shelter. It's there, which is like a big comfort to everybody, and that's what you tell us. But accessing these services and dealing with the trauma on both ends of the spectrum, both from residents and from staff, like It's like everyone is just a traumatized mess here, and everybody who's lived here has been traumatized, most likely sexually, in their lives. And that being said, they are intentionally trying to kill us through the food, through the technology, and that is why you don't see homeless around anymore. That is why you don't have the homeless population living in encampments. They've killed us all because they can trigger drug use, they can trigger mental health episodes, they can feed you food that cause you to get angry, violent, and upset, depending on who you are. They can also control the drugs that come into the shelter, which is another big piece. They can control the drugs, which meaning they can make sure the drugs get in here that kill people, and they use technology to switch it out when you're smoking it. So one day, at one point, let's say you bought a big ounce of drugs, like let's say an ounce. Well, you're smoking it, it's always giving you one effect, but all of a sudden, and you've been using for like 20 some odd years, all of a sudden it just kills you and you die instantly. Well, most people who do drugs have been doing them a long time. So the fact that you can switch out drugs and do it invisibly, gaining, and because everyone just thinks, oh, if there was opioids in the drugs, and there wasn't. You, the hotel, and the shelter, the city, killed a person. And that's why I think we should put some laws on this technology. What can be done, what can't be done, and enforce those laws. Because this technology is so widespread. Anyways, so not only did other people agree with me, they asked me to redo the survey because I said, no, nothing is going to go to staff. There's just no, like, I'm not part of them. I'm not with them. They treat me just as way the same as they treat you. I just happen to know what a little bit of their backstory. So that's why I advocate for them a little bit, because it's like they are human too, and sometimes we get caught up in our own situation that we don't put ourselves in other people's situations. And I was just making it clear that these people, both parties have been abused. I was in that particular situation trying to advocate because it just felt like we were really dumping on them. And I kind of feel this like sadness a little bit for them, because they have to now serve the people that that can seem very privileged, especially when you've been tied up and points your whole life. That's a hard thing to do, and never have, probably some may have never have left the shelter, all 12 stories below and above. Well, we're not 12 stories, but we're like 5. But I digress. So essentially, the food needs to go. They are intentionally trying to kill us. I mean, you could get food that won't make us gassy, bloated, and have extreme diarrhea. Like, I only ate the food twice, and I knew it was bad for me. And I mean, from the get-go, I was like, oh, and I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't even sleep because I was farting, and it would come out shites. Like, it was that heinous and that bad for you. And obviously, if it's causing diarrhea, bloatedness, and gassiness, those are all indications the food is not good. Secondly, we need to stop paying for laundry. I don't think anybody brought this up because I don't think many people do laundry. And if they do, they sacrifice their $2 every time, every load. I don't think that we should pay for laundry. In every other shelter that I've been at, the city has a machine or a program that allows you to do laundry. Like at the Bond, they sent the laundry out, but we had so many people doing laundry and a lot of laundry. But we shouldn't have to pay for laundry. Because why are you trying to make a toonie off of homeless people who you are providing a home to? And a home does include, some homes include laundry, so, and again, they strategically target us. So I'll be sleeping and this guy will come in at 10 p.m. and be like, you need to declutter. There's too much stuff here. We said 2 bags. You have more than 2 bags. Blah, blah. And wake me up out of a sleep. And this one woman also complained that she feels very taken back when we do room checks every day at 10 a.m. The men that come in at 10 a.m. scare some people. And it's very traumatic. Imagine if you had men your whole life coming in, knocking on, like barging in and just doing whatever they wanted to you. Like, that's pretty traumatizing to then have to be forced as an adult to relive the same trauma over and over and over again. And especially every day at 10 o'clock. Now, it's okay that it's okay that like you need to do room checks, but how about a gender specific room check for some people, or I'm not sure if they can even request it, or just have all women working at the shelter that might, or maybe not have men, even though there are men here, including me. I digress. And I'm going to say this, I have advocated for myself to be moved because I personally don't feel comfortable. I feel like I'm encroaching on a woman's space, and I've let management know. I've let the person who got me in here know, and I've done my advocacy, and everybody has told me it's fine. They do accept males if they are partnered with someone on average. So there are other men living here. Don't get me wrong. However, I still don't feel comfortable. So that's my piece. And like, there's trauma here. Here's what I think. There's trauma here that I will never know. When I escorted, I was of the same privilege level and therefore got treated with respect because I am indeed a man. Now, being a woman and having to deal with some of the hoodling, boodling terrorists out there is a whole other story. And there is trauma here that I will never know. And I just think that I should be moving to a different shelter. Now, I'm not going to go run out on the street and go take huge action for that, because who really wants to be out in the cold? Not me, which is, and who doesn't want to have a shower? Well, I want to have a shower most of the time. So that's what I have to say about that. Also, one resident brought up that naloxone is not in every room, and it should be, at least initially. And the staff should make sure that there is naloxone in every room, just to prevent overdoses. Because if you're not alone and someone can save you, then you might as well equip them with the right tools. And also, she said, staff aren't always accessible. Like, they're behind a door. If they don't answer the door, if they choose not to answer the door, and they also have to go into another room to then get the naloxone. And I thought, they're definitely right and should understandably have naloxone at least hanging on the walls. However, because this situation is unique and the hotel runs everything, the city just rents out the building, which, in my opinion, if you were the city, this building is probably worth 30 to 40 million, like maybe a little bit more, but you can probably get it for that much. And you buy the property, if not redo the residence, and like develop it. It's a big piece of land. You could do a lot with it. And there's a school nearby. There's a library. It would be a perfect situation to put something, like even move Women's Zone over there eventually. Over here, it would be like a good social service to then provide, especially if you're trying to invest in addictions and getting people off the street and housing and all these different initiatives that the government says they're into. And again, the attitude and the non-touch torture techniques and the belittlement and gawking and negative feeling after dealing with staff is very much a problem. And again, this gassy, bloated, and have diarrhea, not good. It needs to be fixed immediately. Immediately. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.